In the early 11th century, the south of Italy was in a somewhat politically fractious state. Parts of the southern peninsula were ruled by the Byzantine Empire, and other parts were ruled mostly by independent Lombard princes. Meanwhile, Sicily was ruled by several Arab dynasties, mostly engaged in civil war with one another. But over the course of about 50 years, Normans took control of the whole of southern Italy and Sicily as well. The Normans did not arrive as a conquering army. Rather, they arrived as mercenaries, kind of trickling in and serving in the armed forces of the Byzantines and the Lombards. Now, if the Normans were anything, they were opportunists. And in this case, they saw the opportunity that existed in southern Italy. Eventually, they would overtake those who were employing them. This process is one of the most remarkable stories of conquest, and it became the stuff of legend. Quite a few stories and myths evolved surrounding the arrival of the Normans. One story describes a group of some 40 Normans who were returning from a pilgrimage to Jerusalem. They arrived at Salerno, where they were welcomed by the local prince, who was a Lombard. The Normans were enjoying the hospitality of the Prince of Salerno when there was a sudden attack by a band of Saracen pirates. The people of Salerno were terrified and ran to hide. The Normans were disgusted by this attitude and took it upon themselves to attack or counterattack these Saracen pirates. This roused the courage of the local population, who joined with the Normans, and together they completely destroyed this group of Saracen pirates. The Prince of Salerno was so pleased that he offered these Normans a large sum of money and lands if they would stay and help him defend his territory. The Normans, however, refused, saying they needed to get back home, but they insisted that they would tell their fellow Normans back in Normandy about what had happened and about the opportunity that awaited in southern Italy. This story very much has a legendary quality to it, but it certainly contains hints of what it was that brought the Normans to southern Italy in the first place. First of all, it talks about the danger of Saracen piracy, which was a very real problem in the early 11th century in the southern part of the Italian peninsula. Sicily was under Arab rule, and they were able to launch piratical expeditions almost with impunity. Also, it contains this idea that the Normans were these fierce and capable warriors who could kind of take control of the situation and get rid of the Saracen pirates. And of course, this alludes to the fact that the Normans would in fact be the ones who would reconquer Sicily itself. The Byzantines and various Lombard princes had tried to get rid of the Arabs in Sicily. They had never been able to do it. The Normans, of course, were the ones who were able to achieve this. And also it contains this idea of the Normans going back home and spreading the word about what was going on in southern Italy and that there was opportunity there. This is definitely what happened. There was a lot of Norman traffic back and forth between the homeland in Normandy and the south of Italy. People were hearing back in Normandy, okay, there's opportunity down in Italy. The next story about the origins of the Normans in southern Italy is more closely linked to historical events. The story takes place in northern Apulia, in the town of Mont Saintangelo. Here in the 5th century, the Archangel Saint Michael was said to have made an appearance in his full armor before the local bishop, leaving behind one of his golden spurs as a relic. At the cave where Saint Michael appeared, a shrine was built, and by the 11th century, this was an important destination for pilgrims. Apparently, in 1016, around 40 Norman pilgrims visited the shrine in the cave where Saint Michael had appeared. Here, they were approached by a man called Melus, a Lombard nobleman. The Normans were struck by the Lombards' long flowing robes, which they found to be excessive, even effeminate. However, when Melus offered them a deal, a joint Lombard-Norman alliance against Byzantine rule in the south of Italy, the Norman pilgrims listened. Melus promised them that if they helped him overthrow the Byzantines, he would make them all wealthy. The Normans agreed, promising to return to Normandy and recruit more men for the rebellion. Now, this Lombard nobleman Melus was a real historical figure, and he did indeed lead an insurrection against the Byzantines, and he had Norman mercenaries in his service. But whether or not he actually approached the Normans while they were coming out of this iconic pilgrim cave, that, of course, may be legendary. But it contains important details that give us an idea of how the Norman conquest of southern Italy was viewed in this period. First of all, it gives us this image of the Normans as these tough foreigners who were not impressed by the effeminate locals and, kind of thought that they were pushovers. This is exactly how the Normans viewed the situation. And also it contains this idea of the Normans getting their foot in the door by serving the local powers. This is true. This is what happened. So I think both of these stories are very interesting in that they show us something of how the Normans themselves viewed the Norman takeover of the south of Italy. You've got this idea of the Normans as being the only ones who could deal with the Saracens. This idea that the locals were pushovers and that their petty conflicts were an opportunity for the Normans to exploit. And of course, this idea that associates the whole thing with pilgrimage. The Normans are passing through as pilgrims. This was the great age of pilgrimage for the West. And of course, this great idea of the Normans going back home and talking with each other about this opportunity. So I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about these stories. I am going to be doing more videos about the Normans in Italy. It's one of my favorite subjects. Talk to you soon.